What's going on, team? Welcome back to another week. Welcome back to another Money Monday, another weekly stock talk. Today, we're going to be jumping into our previous stocks that we talked about last week. I'm going to link that right over here. That way you guys can cross-reference and check that we did talk about it and that we did get those results. We're also going to talk about the S&P 500, where we think the market's going to be going in the next week, this upcoming week. And we're also going to be talking about 5 opportunities to be paying attention to throughout this week. So if you guys are new here, my name is Xander with Facer Trading Academy. If you guys do find any value, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, we do these videos every single Monday. And let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So last week we talked about DXCM. That one ended up gaining 10.79%. We also talked about JBL. That one gained 10.56%. We talked about Uber. That one gained 10.78%. We talked about Microsoft MSFT. That one gained 6.93%. We talked about Walmart. That one gained 2.5%. And then we talked about Carvana CVNA. That one ended up gaining 5.56%. The actual team that I work with, I'm going to leave that link down in the description below. They get a more extensive watch list. So we only talk about 5 here on the channel, but they get long plays, they get short plays, they get more plays than just these 5 that we talk about. But I do want to share these with you guys. That way you guys are prepared, know what's going on with the market, and are ready to take advantage of the opportunities and not gamble, right? So we don't want to gamble. We do want to trade, right? So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. What we focus on this channel is we do technical analysis, and we focus on technical analysis. We don't do too much speculation. We just focus on what the technicals are telling us, and we trade based off that. So that's what we're going to be jumping into. Let's go ahead and talk about the S&P 500, which is SPY, SPY. And that one, we're paying attention to it right now. Last week, we talked about it when we saw this double bottom, and we were talking about seeing a recovery once we find support at this support level down here, right? After we saw this double bottom, we found support. We talked about, hey, if we do end up breaking above this channel, back into this channel and the 50-day moving average, we're probably going to recover to those previous highs where we were around 473. We ended up getting to about 472. We're basically there. We got there on Friday, and then today we're starting to see a little bit of a pullback. And the reason being is because we actually have a Fed meeting coming up. And then we're also going to have those announcements coming up on Wednesday. So we're going to know a little bit more as far as the policy goes, what we're going to be doing. And so hence, that's why people are a little more hesitant coming into this week, right? We also have the variant that people are getting a little bit concerned about. And as far as, what's going to be happening, are we going to be closing things down? What kind of, regulations or rules they're going to be putting on people. And that's all going to have an impact, right? So we're coming into this week with all of that going on. And I do want to say Wednesday, we're going to know a little bit more, and I believe the market's going to clear up as far as direction goes, right? But looking at the technicals, so let's go ahead and look at the chart. What we're paying attention to is we actually came down here to the 180-day moving average today. And I do anticipate that, if we do continue to pull back, if we do have a little bit more hesitation going into Tuesday, we might come down and test this bottom channel trend line, right? We might test this as a support. That is going to be the first level that we're going to be paying attention to. And that's going to be the $460 level, right? If things don't go as well after Wednesday, I do anticipate we might come down to that 450 level. But from what I'm seeing, it's hard to say. I wouldn't be putting, if I had to guess, I wouldn't assume that, we're going to come out with any negative news. But, nobody can really predict that, right? So what we're going to be paying attention to is what we get as far as, the announcement goes on Wednesday and from the Fed chair. And then whatever happens there is really going to dictate the rest of the move, right? But I do anticipate tomorrow, if we do see anything that we saw today, we're probably going to see a pullback down to the support level, find support here at 460, 461-ish, 462, this general area, potentially find a bounce. and then continue to put in new highs if the announcement goes well. If it doesn't go as well, then I would anticipate we do come down to this support level down here at 450 and test that. That's also going to be pretty much testing this general area, this zone that we were just in when we were testing when we saw that correction last week, right? Or the week before that, right? When we saw this pullback happening, right? So that's probably what we would see. Like I said, I do anticipate us finding support here first. If we're very lucky and we get, a change of sentiment in the market, we're probably going to bounce off the 180-day moving averages and push off, right? We are on the RSI starting to look like we're starting to pull back a little bit. We're at 47, right? So we don't have as much strength. That's why I'm really leaning towards the fact that we might pull back to the support line right here, this channel. And we're not seeing any indication of a turnaround yet. So like I said, this is a pretty high probability of happening. So tomorrow I'll just be a little more cautious on Tuesday. And then Wednesday we'd get the news and we'd know where the market's going after that. And then you can play accordingly, right? But all that being said, I do want to say that we do have those 5 opportunities that we did talk about, right? And granted, this will, whatever happens in the overall market is obviously going to have an impact on, these particular stocks that we're going to be talking about. But if you are prepared and if you're paying attention, you can definitely take an advantage of, a scoop on the day move. You can scalp, or you can even go for a swing if we do see that positive news come on Wednesday. So let's go ahead and talk about these, and then we'll go ahead and move forward. So go ahead and talk about the first one's going to be Uber, U-B-E-R. So talking about Uber, we're going to be taking a look at Uber. Let's go ahead and zoom out on the big picture. That way you guys can kind of see what's going on. We always like to take a look at the 4-hour and the general big picture trend of it and kind of see where we're at. So the reason this one did catch my eye and the reason I am interested in it, we're not seeing a very bullish trend. However, I do want to say that we did just pull back down to the support level that we tested about a week ago when we saw that market pullback happen, right? And we're currently at that same support. Paying attention to the RSI, we look like we are oversold, which is a good indication. And we are starting to see a change of color here on the MACD. So let's go ahead and zoom into a closer time frame. That way you guys can kind of see on a closer basis what's going on. So that's the first thing. Last time, a week ago when we did pull back, we ended up pulling back to this dotted line, which is your -1 standard deviation, right? And when we did pull back, we ended up seeing a push off to that 50-day moving average, which is your purple line. And currently we're seeing a very, very similar setup. We pulled back to the support where we were, and we tested twice. We pulled back to that. We starting to see a pattern of a reversal here on the support level, and we're starting to see oversold levels and a change of color from red to orange, indicating that, momentum is starting to shift to the upside. And like I said, if the news comes out on Wednesday or the announcement on Wednesday is positive, I do anticipate we will see a recovery. And based off of previous levels, just off this recovery that we saw last time, I do anticipate we'd recover probably to that 39.40 level, which would give us about a 11 to 12% move, right? Not saying it can't go higher, but that would be the first target that we'd be paying attention to, the first take profit zone. So that's in essence what we're paying attention to with Uber. The sell-off that we've been seeing for the last day basically has just been the overall market pushing, this entire sector down. So that's why we're starting to see that pullback once again. However, like I said, if the meeting goes well and just from a technical setup, this does look like we are probably going to see that recovery, at least to that zero line, which is actually that $40 level, giving us 11% profit potential. So that's what we're paying attention to with Uber. The next one we're paying attention to is ARK, ARKK. So ARK, big picture, let's go ahead and zoom out and see what we're looking at. This has been trading in a very horizontal fashion. That Uber has been trading a little bit more so in a downtrend. This is trading more horizontally, and we were generally trading between that 132 level and basically this 107 level. So 107, 132, we were trading there for a very, very long time. And then we ended up starting to see that massive pullback happen when we started seeing the overall market pulling back. The reason this one is catching my eye, very, very similar reasons as to, all the setups that we look at as far as going oversold and offering a great deal. First things first is we haven't seen these levels since basically, I would say, April, right? We haven't even seen, even April wasn't even this low, right? The lowest we saw was in May, and that was back at 97. And so we recently, with that recent pullback that we saw this pullback to 89. And now we're starting to see that pullback happen again because the overall market is pulling back a little bit. So we are starting to see that pullback again. And what we want to be paying attention to is the fact that, first things first, we got rejected by this 50-day moving average. And it looks like we are going to be coming down to approximately 89 again. From what I can tell, if tomorrow does go the way that I'm assuming it will, where we see it pretty much what we saw on Monday, a little bit more of a pullback to come to that support level that we saw on the SPY, we would probably pull back down to this $89 level here on ARKK. They are fairly close as far as correlation goes between, obviously the companies that are in this ETF and, what the SPY consists of, the S&P 500. So a lot of the companies are in common. So that's why we do see this move quite, similarly. If the market's pulling back, we'll probably see this pull back as well. So that's that. As far as, where we're seeing this bounce, like I said, 89 is where we expect that bounce. If tomorrow, is a little bit more on the bearish side, I would expect this to pull back to 89. We're already starting to see a change of color between, from red to orange. Not super oversold, not as oversold as we were back here, where we pretty much knew this was going to bounce at this level, just because of the oversold and the change of color. But so, like I said, we do have that room to drop to 89 from basically 94 that we're at right now. But definitely one to pay attention to, because if we do see the overall market pushing higher, if we do see tech stocks pushing higher, I anticipate this is going to push higher as well. Even from current price points to that 50-day moving average, we're looking at about 5.64%. If we do test this support to that 50-day moving average, we're looking at about 9.98, 10%. So that's what we're paying attention to with ARKK. The next one is going to be CHPT. So CHPT, why we're paying attention to this one is we actually have been flashing very, very oversold levels. And we do have news, regarding the White House releasing plans to grow the US's EV charging network to about 500,000 stations, which is obviously going to be good news for this company. ChargePort, obviously we're going to get good news. On top of that, we had earnings coming out, and that didn't have too much of a negative effect. We already saw that pullback happen. Obviously, we saw a little bit of a drop back to the support. However, we didn't, sell off significantly. So that tells us that this is a very strong support level that we're currently at. And up until this point, we were trading below this blue line, which is your exponential moving average. It's your EMA. And, we have been very oversold, like I said. So we are starting to pick up here as far as momentum goes on the MACD. It's obviously starting to change from, purple, which indicates that we're potentially going to be selling off right before we go into the red, but it's changing from purple back to green, indicating to us that we are actually starting to move back to the upside. The moving averages are actually starting to move to the upside. We saw a break through the EMA level right here, and that confirms to us. Obviously, we saw a couple of fake outs here, but these were just wicks, right? And so we never actually closed above this EMA level. So, yeah, you could have jumped in and assumed it might be recovering, but it never closed above the EMA. Today, we actually closed above the EMA, indicating to us that we're starting a potential reversal coming off of this support right here at 1996. We were oversold on Friday, and today we aren't as oversold, but that's because we did begin to push up to the upside. So today we saw a move of about 4.7%. And I anticipate that, at the very least, we're going to be pushing up until this 50-day moving average, just because it has been acting as a resistance. And that's about 6.23% move from current price points. But, as the news goes, I do anticipate that we push higher, actually. And that would be at least to this next level, which is the 180-day moving average. We're looking at about 14.35%. And if the news is, obviously grabs momentum, grabs traction, we're probably going to see a push potentially up until, the 27.72 level. It might take a little bit longer, but I do anticipate we might push to that level. And that's about a 32.64% level. And that is attractive, right? So 30%, if you have a 1-to-2 ratio or a 1-to-3 ratio even, you know, obviously the risk is very, very minimal on this play, having a risk management right under this support level right at 1991. And obviously the profit potential is fairly attractive, right? And we have been trading fairly sideways. We did push up to the upside, had some resistance up here, and that's why we have this as a resistance level. Now we push back down, found support, which actually acted as a support down here as well, multiple times. And at the low points, we're even looking at, you know, 17 something, 1750, right? So, you know, worst case scenario, this does dip, but I don't anticipate that's going to be happening just because of what we're seeing here on the RSI and the MACD, the break on the EMA. And I do anticipate with the positive news catalyst, I do anticipate this is going to start pushing. We saw a lot of green volume coming in today, and so that's why we're paying attention to CHPT. The next one that we're going to be paying attention to is going to be AA. So this one here, Alcoa, this one's actually going to be, you know, joining the S&P Mid Cap 400, which is going to get a lot more exposure to the company, obviously, and we're going to start pushing to the upside. Big picture, you know, the very first thing that we're taking a look at here is we see a very consistent uptrend pattern. Obviously, with that news, also a positive news catalyst, we're probably going to see this push even higher. I would anticipate at least to this first standard deviation level, which aligns fairly close to this previous all-time high at 58. We're looking at about 57.20. So that's what we're paying attention to here with Alcoa AA. We're starting to see a reversal here on the MACD to the upside, which I do anticipate we're going to push tomorrow, probably to the upside, and before we become very overbought. We're not super oversold. However, the news is what we're paying attention to, and that's why we find this one attractive. The consistent uptrend pattern over the extended period of time. That one, you know, that's also, you know, why we find this attractive. The hold above the 180-day moving average, which we just broke above. You know, as long as we're above it, we keep pushing higher. That's another reason that we're very attracted to this particular opportunity. And so that's basically why this one is on our watch list. I do anticipate this one has some significant potential. From current price points, let's go ahead and measure this out and zoom in a little bit closer. From current price points, let's say even from where we're at to that 58.40 level, we're looking about 13.97%. But considering that we're consistently pushing higher and higher, I do anticipate this will probably put in newer highs, especially after we get listed, which actually happens here on, I believe it's on the 20th. Let me go ahead and try to pull the news chart up. So on the 20th, yeah, December 20th is when that happens, right? So that's what we're paying attention to here with AA. The next one that we're going to be talking about is going to be URBN. So URBN, very similar setup to what we've talked about already. Super oversold, big picture, trading very sideways. We used to be between this range right here, 33.80 and approximately 42.65. Then we ended up breaking below that level, formed new lows, a new channel that we began to trade in between 28 and basically 35. And so currently we're at that very bottom of this channel. And I do anticipate, because we're super oversold, and we haven't seen quite, you know, an indication of this actually changing direction. Nothing concrete yet. So this is definitely a watch only for now until we do see a break above this EMA. However, once we do start seeing a change of color here on the MACD from red to orange, I do anticipate that we might potentially see this hold as a support. This did hold as support previously here at 28.57, and we're currently at 29. So we're about 50 cents from that support level. And this held as a very strong support level back in October. So I do anticipate we do bounce off of this level and then potentially push up. We're going to be looking at first level, going to be the 50-day moving average, which is actually crossing right now with the 180-day moving average, which is going to be a strong resistance level. So from current price points, we're going to be paying attention to that level. We're looking at about 13.38% profit potential, and then managing our risk just below at a 1 to 2, 1 to 3, whatever your risk reward ratio is. managing it just below the support level, just because, you know, we haven't seen it break below this level before. So you're pretty much getting in at a really, really good deal as far as this ticker goes, right? So that's what we're paying attention to here with URBN. The next one that we're going to be paying attention to is going to be the last one that we're going to talk about today. It's going to be ROAD, ROAD. And this one here, a very, very great, you know, a very attractive reversal setup that we're starting to see here. We haven't necessarily quite broken above this EMA yet, but it looks like we are just about to. We super oversold, which is a good sign. And it looks like we're starting to take off. You know, that strength is coming in, and we're starting to see that shift going from, you know, the MACD shifting from the red and orange back to that purple and green. And so you might say, you know, well, we were super oversold here at this point. How come we didn't reverse just yet? Well, because we still had this move coming down, right? We didn't have those averages cross, right? So now that we did see those averages cross, now we're starting to see this break happening potentially through this EMA level. And I would anticipate we would recover at least to that zero line, which is about a 10.25% move, if not a bigger move, right? But that is what we're paying attention to here with ROAD. And we also have that target go to $40 set by, you know, Stifle adjusts Construction Partners price target to 40 from 35. So obviously we're having some, you know, positive analysts, you know, perspectives coming in as well. A strong, you know, amount of volume coming in here, positive bullish volume coming in. We're starting to see this setup of the reversal happening. MACD starting to turn around, you know, positive news catalyst, a break through that EMA. And so, like I said, you know, this is really setting up to be a great reversal play. What I would say as far as support goes and where to manage your risk, I'd be looking at approximately just below where this was, and this acted as a strong support, which is actually why we're starting to see that bounce here. But I would manage it just right under the support, probably like 31.50, 31. And we're currently at 33. So if we do break higher, you know, you have the massive potential for profit, and you're managing your risk and protecting your capital on the downside if anything does go wrong. Not that I expect it to, but, you know, you always do want to be protecting your capital. So from current price points, let's say the first move would be up until, you know, that 50-day moving average. We can even do the 180-day moving average to be the first, you know, level of, you know, potential resistance. We're looking at about 5.23% there. The next move after that would be 10.45%. And if we do make that full recovery, that one's a bit of a long shot. I wouldn't be, you know, banking on the fact that that's going to recover all the way to 44. That's about 35% basically. Can we recover to about, you know, 42? Maybe. But I'd really be looking for this move up to this 50-day moving average, maybe a tad higher. So 13, 14, 15% potential for profit there. So, you know, hopefully you guys found some value in the stocks that we talked about. If you guys did enjoy this video, I try to keep them short and sweet, but I do try to make sure that I tell you guys kind of why I'm paying attention to them. And why we're paying attention to them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed them. Make sure to smash that like button. It definitely helps out the channel. If you guys aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe, share this with a friend. Hopefully this helped you get into a better position as far as this week goes, and, you know, introduce you to some opportunities to pay attention to. And I do want, you know, you and obviously your acquaintances to obviously, you know, take advantage of these opportunities as well and pay attention to them. So hopefully that helped you. Hopefully it helps somebody that you do know. So share it with a friend. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you guys on next week's Stock Talk video.